Hello everyone and welcome to Rudy's Retro Intel. On today's show we're looking at this BBC Micro, I believe it's Model B, and a friend of mine got it. It's from the UK. It's a 6502A processor running at 2 megahertz with 32K of RAM. Now this one has a European style, actually a British style 250 volts plug. And what we want to do in this episode is see if we can convert this to 110 and then test the machine, make sure it works. And if we have time, we're going to make a mod to it that changes or enhances the color output of the composite out. So let's peek inside and poke around. So before we start ripping the power supply apart and pulling out the existing AC cable, we need to first figure out what wire goes where. So I found this diagram on the internet. It's a nice display of the different types of plugs. You know, you have the USA/Canada, Euro Type 1, Euro Type 2, and UK and the different plugs. And it shows you the wiring for each one. So what we are interested in is the UK one and the USA one. So I'm going to write a little diagram or a little something on my notepad here just to figure out what wire goes where, and then we can wire it up. Now, it's important to ensure that you're wiring this up correctly, because if not, you could be introducing problems. You could, damage your computer or whatever you're converting. And the other thing we have to look at is the power supply. So before we start cutting wires and soldering stuff in, I want to check the power supply to see if there's a way to switch it from 220 or 240 to 110, 120. Here's the power supply schematic for the BBC Micro, and we're looking for this part right here. Now I'm going to zoom in a bit. Let's see if I can make that a little bit better for everyone. And as we can see right here, there is a this is the line in neutral ground. This is for the 220 volts. Now you also have a spot right here that says the 115. So if it looks like we can just short out these 2 points and then allow us to plug in 115 or 110, whatever, depending on where you are. It's 110, 115, 117. So let's open up the power supply and make this mod, and then we'll hook up the wires and test the power supply. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull off all the screws, which I've done already. I've opened it up, and just to make sure I get familiar before I did the video. So screws are out, the top comes off straight up like that. And here we have the inside of the unit, power supply, keyboard, all the fun chips. We have the, where is it now? Let's see here. 6502 is here. The RAM is here. And, ROMs, etc., blah, blah, blah. So let's disconnect these. Now, there are several points. There's 2 here, 1 here, 2 more back here, and 2 right here. So before you're taking things apart, take a picture. I've already done that with my camera, so I have a copy of a location of where everything goes, because when you put it all back, you want to make sure everything goes back in the right spot. So let's take things apart. First thing we'll take apart is the keyboard. We got to detach this and a couple of screws. Oh, and the speaker. So that comes apart like that. Now with the keyboard apart, we can unplug these wires. So let's disconnect these ones. It's interesting how they had this wiring like this for the computer. Okay, so that is out. And now I'm going to just turn this on its side, and we're going to, before we do that, I want to take this elastic off here, which we don't need, and I don't like using elastics for power cords. And I'm gonna feed everything through here. Hopefully it all fits. Let's see. Oh, it does. Excellent. So now we have the power supply out. And there we go. Now I'm going to try to zoom in better here so we can get a closer look at this power supply. I think that'll work. Okay, so here's the power supply. These are the wires going to the board, which we're not going to be touching. We are looking for any reefer caps, and there's one reefer cap right in there. Right there is a reefer cap. It's a 0.1 microfarad X type. And there might be one more under here. I'll know better when I take the board out. So the next step is to see if we can find that jumper location, and I found it right here. It's pretty. Let's see if we can get a better view of that right there. Right there. So this is where the jumper wire will go. And so let's pull this apart and remove the reefer caps. You know, those need to be removed. If not, you release the magic smoke and stink. And put in that jumper. So let's get the screwdriver and soldering iron warmed up and get cracking. Alright, I've removed the screws. I have this connector in the back here. What I've did is I use a pair of pliers to pinch it to fit back into this hole over here. And next thing we'll need to do is disconnect the power switch. And that is these two wires. There's a blue wire, a brown and a blue, and a brown and a blue. And then we're going to disconnect the ground, which is right there. And then pull out this connector. So I'm going to jump cut to that, and we'll see in a minute. Okay, after a bit of a lot of work and pain in the neck, I got the cable apart. I got everything going here. Let me just show you. This is the grommet that actually holds the cable. It actually crimps onto the cable. It goes on like this, and then that like that, and that goes into the back of the power supply. And that's so that when you pull on it, it's actually nice tight fitting. Now, I don't have a proper tool for that, so my friend whose computer this is, he will use his tool. But what you can do in the meantime is you make a knot like this. Just make a knot on the inside so when you're pulling it, it's not going anywhere, right? Next thing, I use my my special crimping tool to put these ends on the this broken one, but the ends on all the wires. So there's the ground, the brown, and the blue. Now I lucked out because the existing power cord, the 110, this 110 power cord had the exact same colors. And then I took my multimeter and I ohmed out. I measured this side, I measured this side, and the ground to ensure that it's correct. And it's the correct wiring, so it actually worked out right. So now the next thing to do is to clear the bench a bit. Okay, and the next piece here, I'm having two cameras here so that you can see here and here for a better view. So here are the holes. I'm not sure if that's showing up. It's not auto-focusing. Come on. There are holes here. So what we want to do is desolder these two pads right here and then put in a wire. Now what I've done is I've got a piece of wire. It's from a quarter, actually a half watt resistor that I had lying around, so I can use that as a nice wire to put on there to complete that part. And then what we're going to do is I pulled out from one of my spares a UREFA cap replacement. This is the same values on the Apple II power supply, so it's perfect. It'll just fit in. I'll have to bend the legs a bit because it's a bit narrower than the others. So let me heat up the iron and we'll get this done. So with the iron nice and ready, I'm going to use some solder wick to just wick away these two spots. Because you could put the wire just across the two, but I'd rather just put it right through the hole since there's already a spot for them. So a bit of solder wick just to suck up that one. And then the other one, which is right across from it. And that should do it. Okay, so now we have the piece of wire. What we're going to do is I'm going to put it in, I'm going to bend it, and then I'm going to put it through the other side, so that when you're looking at the power supply in the future, if you're opening it up and looking inside, you're going to see the wires there, as opposed to underneath. You're not going to know that, unless you take it apart. And these power supplies are, to be nice, a real big pain in the where to take apart. I don't know why they made it in such a way, but this is back in 1981, so everyone had their own idea of how to build a power supply. So what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring the wire and I'm bending it so that it fits in nicely in the hole. So there we go. Bent that, and I'm going to put it in this side here. Bend it a bit in. Now, while I was doing the other work, I was checking out the board, looking for capacitors, that have been bulging or having a problem. Everything looks good. There's no burn marks on the resistors, the diodes. I didn't do a complete diode test or resistor test, capacitance test. Everything looks okay. So let's do this part and then we'll fire it up. And if it doesn't work, then we'll take a deeper dive onto the power supply. In the meantime, let's get this soldered up. So what I do is, this is in there. I'm not going to put any tape to hold it. What I'm going to just do is just grab some solder. I'm going to put it on the tip. And I'm not going to be, let's see, how can I hold this? Use my pick here to hold it in place. And add a little bit of solder so that it's holding it. And now I can go back, do the other one, do the other side, and then go back and do this, touch this one up. But it fell through, so let's put a little bit more solder on that and try again. Okay, looks like it's holding now. We'll do the other side. And then I go back to the first side, make sure it's all good before I snip the wires. So now, as we can see here, we have the jumper. Let me see if you're getting that there. You know what? Let me just zoom the camera in a bit more. Okay, so now we can see I have the jumper wire going from here to here where it says 115, not across where it says 220, but across the 1.5 volts. So that's done. I'm going to snip off the ends and then we will move on to the next. Okay, I've got the power supply back in its case. If you're planning on working one of these, make sure you know what you're doing, because again, it's high voltages in here. You gotta be very careful. And if you want to tackle this project, it's a real big pain to pull this board in and out of this chassis. The way it's set up, it's very it's not fun. It's doable, but not fun. So let's plug these connectors back in here on the bottom. Make sure they're nice and snug. Now the ones I've put on, I have no idea if they're going to work, so let us give us a quick try. Blue goes there. I should just do the brown first. Yeah, it is going on. It's a little tough, so I'm just going to tackle this for a moment, and then I'm just going to jump cut to the next scene, and I'm going to put some tape around, some electrical tape, because the other ones have this plastic cover which does not come off, and I don't have any of these kind of covers that would go over the connector, so it would go inside there to protect. So what I'm going to do is put some electrical tape around everything just to make sure it's not going to arc or short out. So let's skip ahead a bit and get back to this. Now, before we start plugging things in and turning things on, we need to verify what voltages we should be getting. So on this diagram here, where we saw we have to put in that little wire to short these connections out, we see we have here the voltages here. So it looks like minus 12. So plus 12, plus 5, common, and minus 5. So these are the voltages you want to look for. And I'm going to try to figure out where in the little connector those voltages are. So let's go back to the power supply and now power it up. See if we're getting 120 volts, and then, see if we're getting the proper voltages, plus 12, plus 5, common or ground, and the minus 5. All right, with everything plugged in, well, not plugged in, with everything set up, we want to first find out where is the ground. So we have pins on here on this connector. We also have these little connectors here that are going off to the motherboard. These ones right here. So we're going to check here. So let's first check this one. There's red and black, red and black, red and black. So let's see if the black is ground. I'm going to touch it to the case. Yep, so that's ground. So that means that these are all ground, and the red should be, I'm assuming, plus 5. So on the connector, let's see which one is ground. So let's put that lead in there so it's touching ground. And let's see if that's showing up. First one here. So the bottom one is ground here. And that one is also ground. That one is not ground. And that one is not ground. And that one is not ground. So the bottom two are grounded. So what I've done, or what I'm doing, is I'm making a little chart here, and I'm putting down a little drawing of the connector. It's a crude drawing. So ground is there, and ground is there. So basically we have two grounds on here. So now I'm assuming that these red ones are going to be plus 5. So let's see if we can find the plus 5. Now the reason I'm doing this is because it's a little easier to test on this connector here than it is to sort of poke around the power supply. Even though I've worked with power supplies in the past, I don't enjoy getting shocked. So if you can find a way to make things a little easier for testing, then you should do it. All right, so let's try this. So let's plug one lead in there. And what I'm doing is just poking around. Oops. Let's try from the back side. We get maybe a better connection. Okay. So let's try one here. Oops. So this one on the middle one here is pin 5. This is ground, this is ground, this is not, but this one here, so this one on this edge is, looks like +5. So let's make that assumption and mark down on our little pad, +5 volts, and that's this one here. So therefore this one is an empty hole. There's no wire in that one, so I'll put an X there. So that means that one of these two is going to be the +12. Sorry, what is it again? One is the -5, not +12. So there should be a +12 and a -5. So that means one of these are going to be, whoops, let me just go back here. One of these are going to be, it's either this one or this one's going to be +12 and -5. So I think now we're good. We're safe. Check the fuse. The fuse is good. What I'm going to be doing is plugging this unit, this power supply, into a power bar, and then I'm going to turn on the power bar. Well, I'm going to leave the power supply on and then turn on the power supply. In case it blows up, I'm far enough away I can actually just quickly just shut off the power bar, which will shut off the power supply, and we're good. So let's try that out. So here I have the power bar ready to go. If I turn it on, the little green light comes on and off. So I'll leave that off. On the power supply itself, it's set to off. I'm going to put this to on. So it's on the on position. That way I can control the on and off from this here. The next thing I want to do is I want to keep it a little bit, keep it away. And I'm going to hook up the meter in a way that you can see it. And then we're going to be testing here. So let's plug in our new 110 cable in here. Now, the reason, again, what I'm saying, when you're doing the wiring, it's important because this middle pin here in the US and Canada is the ground. You want to make sure at minimum your ground is set up correctly on the power supply. If not, you could touch the case and get a very nasty shock, and we don't want to do that. Again, if you don't know or scared about working on AC voltages, or you're nervous about it, get someone to help you out, learn a lot about it, and then try it. Another thing too is, don't wear jewelry, don't wear stuff that's hanging down. It's going to short out something. I'm actually wearing my wedding ring, which is a no-no, but in this case I think we're going to be safe because I'm just going to be touching the ends over here. So let's give it a try and power up. 1, 2, 3, 4, power on. Okay, so the green light is on. We have power to the power supply. I did not change the reefer cap yet, which I forgot. I will do that. But in the meantime, let's quickly do some tests. Let us plug in the negative lead over here and a positive over here. And what are we getting? Oh, let's see if I get a better. No, that's not right because I'm not plugged in all the way. These are a little tricky to get in. So let's do one there and one here. Oh. I'm not getting a good connection. 5.2 volts, good stuff. So that means the positive voltage is good. Let's look at the negative voltages here. So we're going to put this one's on ground, and this one is +5. We are getting 5.2. Excellent. And this side, top, we are getting -4.5, which is the -5 volts. And the one below that is 11.89 DC volts. So we're getting 12 volts. So far, I'm going to turn this off. So excellent. So far our conversion has gone great. We're doing good. Now I just have to pull out the reefer cap and then we can plug it back into the computer and start doing a test. Does the computer even work? We don't know. The power supply now works, but let me get to that and get back to you. Okay, the reefer cap is now removed. Here is the reefer cap. Now, let's see if you can see that. It's already cracking and breaking. This side looks like, oh, it's not too, whoop. This side looks like it's not too bad. It's only got a few cracks here and there. However, on the back side, you can see that a piece is already breaking off and it's ready to go. So this, if we had left this on for much longer, this would have gone and released the magic smoke. Now, what I've done is I've put the grommet on temporarily in a way that it's not going to come loose. It's nice and tight. So I removed the knot I made in the back. And I was able to get those connectors, the sleeves, off, the old ones. So I put it on the new ones. And now it looks like we're good to go. So one more test. I'm going to plug in the power supply, the power, do more voltage test, and then we'll plug it into the computer and see if it turns on. So let me do this, and then in the meantime, we'll jump ahead to the powering up of the BBC Micro. All right, I've plugged everything back into the computer. The power supplies are hooked up. I hooked up the keyboard. I plugged in all these red wires as before. I have pictures which I'll include in the video a little bit later to show you where they go in case you want to know. Also, I don't have that the BNC type weird connector on the back of this thing for composite. It's not using the standard, these types of jacks. So what I did is I hooked up wiring from the ground and the signal. I wired it all up to this cable, which goes into this monitor. So now, moment of truth. Let's turn it on and see what happens. So, oh, I hear a beep, and let's turn the monitor on. I'm sure it's coming up on the screen. Yes. Are you serious? Are you serious? It's working. Yes. Nice. Does the keyboard work? Oh, looks like it's working. Yes. Let's see. Does home work? Oops. I'm not sure how to use the keyboard. CLS? Oh, CLS does work. Okay, let's try a simple, 10 print program that everyone does. So 10 print. It is working. Exclamation space, and then we do that, and then go to 10. List. There we go. Let's run it. Yes, it's working. Good stuff. So here we go. We have, how do you stop this? Control C. Break. I know break is not a good thing because it actually erases your program. See, it's not there. But anyways, as we can see, we got the power supply converted over. It's working on 110. So this computer now can be enjoyed and used here in Canada or the US. There's an empty spot back here for additional connection. I believe it's for the network components. Nothing is plugged in, so we could figure out some kind of way to connect this in the back there, so you can just leave that the way it is and just plug the RCA cable on the back of the computer. I don't have any software. I don't know how to do any more testing. It looks like a really cool computer. It's running at 2 megahertz, 6502A. Can't go wrong with that. Neat little computer. I wish it was mine, but it's not. It has to go back to my friend. Hopefully he has some software to test and to get that tool to put that grommet back on. So let's button it up and wrap it up. Well, that's it for our show today. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at this BBC Micro and how we did the power conversion from 220 to 110. I'm so happy that the computer is working. We got things fixed. We took care of the reefer cap before it blew up, and we verified the power supply is good. The computer turns on. We ran a little basic program. Everything is great. I'm so happy for my friend Eugene, who will be getting this back. All it needs now is a good cleaning. We'll probably come back later, do a mod for the video to add another jack on a port that's not being used, so why not? And that's it. I want to thank you for watching, all the viewers, all my subscribers, and a big thanks to my Patreon who are scrolling across the screen right now. If you like to support the channel, please give me a thumbs up and a share and a like, comments and all that. And, if you want to help financially, look at the Patreon, become a member. It's not very much money at $3 US a month. And it really helps the channel so I can buy and get more retro things to do more videos and share with everyone all the goodness about having retro computers in your life. So thank you very much. Take care and see you soon. Bye.